Okay, so welcome everyone to Farm to After School. This is stories from partnerships on food and farm education at our local Boys and Girls Club. We're going to present until about 9:45, and then we'll stop and take questions. So if you have questions that you'd like to ask each of us, please put them in the chat and then we'll answer them at the end. Until then, just please mute yourself, but feel free to share your video. We're happy to see your faces. And we're recording this right now, and we will send the slides out next week along with the recording. So if you missed something or you wanted to, look at the pictures again, you'll have a chance to do that later. Okay. So let's go ahead and have Annie, will you introduce yourself, and we'll see if Scott's here too. Uh-oh, Annie, I think you're muted.
I am Annie Sachs. I'm the executive director at the Boys and Girls Club. Have been there for years and years, and it's just a privilege to be here with Project Rose to talk about the strength and importance of the partnership that we have together. And if Scott's not on yet, I can introduce him as well.
Great. Yeah, I don't think he's here, so we'll just let him come on in whenever he's here, and he can jump on in.
He's on the way. I'm sure he's on site, so
Okay.
there are probably kids,
Nice.
wanting to say hello to him, and he's probably trying to get tuned in. So,
great.
So Scott Morris has been with the Boys and Girls Club for many years now. He's been working in the past as a site director at our Staunton site, and he's now our director of operations. So he's sort of working at both sites, but he's been able to also enjoy the partnership and see a lot of the interesting things that we've done with Project Rose over the years firsthand. So I'm sure he'll be with us momentarily.
No problem. Okay, well, I'm Claire Metzler. I'm the Associate Director of Farm Operations at Project Grows. And then you all have met Nicole, who is our Director of Education at our organization. So let's see here. Maybe we can just jump right on into the Boys and Girls Club overview. Annie, would you like to take that?
Sure, gladly. So the Boys and Girls Club has been active in the area of Waynesboro, Staunton, and Augusta County since the late 90s. It was about 10 years ago, and I think Project Rose, you guys will probably be able to talk even more about the history, but about 10 years ago, we started working with Project Rose to provide these incredible farm education opportunities to the kids at the club. We have really I feel like the perfect target population, the kids who need this type of exposure and who truly benefit from it. During normal times, we serve over 400 kids a year through our sites in Staunton and in Waynesboro, and that's kindergarten through 12th grade. We generally during a regular typical school year, we offer after school programming from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then in the summertime, we offer a full day summer camp. And that's really an exciting time for the kids to be able to go and visit the farm. So that's just a general overview. I think, there are so many partners that are important to make what we do with the kids at the club a success. And I would say that Project Rose is one of those key players. So.
Great. Thanks, Annie. Okay, so here's our PowerPoints back. We having trouble getting Scott to join, so we'll just, here he is. Okay, great. Thank you guys for being patient. Zoom is just a learning curve. I'm sure you've all had this learning curve. Okay, welcome, Scott. Thanks for that introduction, Annie. So Clara, do you want to give just a brief overview of Project Grows?
Yeah, so Project Grows is a nonprofit public health, educational, and food access advocacy organization. And we are a 10-acre farm in Verona, based in Verona. Our mission is to improve the health and lives of children and families in our community through farm-based immersion learning and bringing healthy food from the farm to the schools and to the home. So that's just sort of a general overview of what our organization is and of course our mission statement. So as far as the farm goes, we lease land from the Augusta County. We lease about 10 acres and we have a little less than 4 acres in production. And what the picture you see here is sort of the entrance of the farm. In the picture, you can see our greenhouse, and then you can see 2 of our 3 high tunnels there in the back. So our high tunnels really help extend our production onto the shoulder seasons early in the spring and then late into the fall. We've got fall crops in right now, and so that really helps extend what we can grow over the course of the year. Okay, so we are connecting kids with vegetables at the farm in our field trips, in the schools with our Harvest of the Month tasting program, which is an in-school tasting program, and in the community through our farmers markets where we accept and match SNAP benefits. So for folks that don't know, SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program that's formerly known as food stamps. So we'd like to say that what we do, the sort of 3 areas that we're working on our mission include food production, food equity and access, and food education. Great. So the greenhouse, this is where the magic begins on the farm. We start much of what we grow in the greenhouse beginning in early February. So we grow over 40 different varieties of mostly annual vegetables, but also annual and perennial herbs and perennial fruit trees as well. Let's see here. And then as far as our farming methods go, we are not certified organic, but we do use organic and regenerative farming practices, including crop rotation, cover cropping. We don't use synthetic pesticides, etc. We use a lot of floating row cover, which you can see pictured here, to protect our plants from pests. And we have a patchwork of pollinator gardens all around the farm to attract beneficial insects to help us with pest control as well.
Great, thanks Clara for the overview. So I'm just gonna go into a little bit more of the history now between our 2 organizations that Annie had referenced. So Project Grows has been in existence since about 2010. And we broke ground on our farm in 2012. So that's the farm property that you just saw. In 2010, our local hospital, Augusta Health, had just released a community health needs assessment that looked at health outcomes in our area. And the assessment found high rates of type 2 diabetes and obesity in children in the Staunton, Waynesboro, and Augusta County area. And so 9 different human service agencies kind of got together to sort of tackle this problem of, and you know, how do we improve the health of children and youth in our community? And the Boys and Girls Club was a part of those very initial conversations across all these different agencies and organizations. And that group led by Tyrell, I think it's McElroy, who I have never personally met, but was a leader at the Boys and Girls Club at the time. And then Ryan Blosser, who became our executive director, and Steve Grandy, who sat on our board for a long time. We're sort of looking at options of what other communities have done to address health needs. And specifically, we're inspired by Growing Power, a farm up in Milwaukee. And they and these other organizations decided that all the world's problems can be solved in a garden, and that they should start a farm, a community farm that would be an educational opportunity for kids to learn about food and where food comes from. and what to do with it. So yeah, that, and I also dug into the history a little bit, and I believe that the director of healthy lifestyles at the club was also on our board for a number of years too. So there was just a lot of, yeah, good visioning at that time. And now we serve both school districts. We serve almost 6,000 students a year, but our partnership with the club has endured and is one of our most vibrant programs that we are able to provide to the community. I should say that also that the club continues to just give us an open door when we have a new idea for a program, or when Annie has a new idea for something. We feel very welcomed in that space. So I think some of the success of this partnership can really be attributed to the club giving us that welcome every single year, you know, no matter if there's a staff change or something, there's been that history. And then I should also say that this partnership is supported by generous grant funding from the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth and the USDA Community Food Projects Grant. Annie, do you want to add anything to that history? Oh, I think you're muted. Go for it.
Thank you. It's breakfast time for my cat around here, so I think that you have given a good overview. One thing that I think is really interesting is in having our previous director as part of the conversation, you know, surrounding providing some really important interventions. You know, it aligns really closely with some of our other club programs. We have a huge focus on health and wellness, healthy lifestyles, not only being physically active, but also learning to have a healthier diet and make good choices. And I think, you know, it's interesting, Project Grows seems to really fall in line with some titles of some of our other important programs. We have Project Learn. We have some other various projects in our roster of curriculum. So I can see the real kind of natural, you know, in the early development stages, how much the population of kids that we serve really meshed into, you know, Project Grow's, you know, focus. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it's been fun to dig into some of this history. I'm myself and many of our current managers at Project Grows, our current directors, came on in 2018. So it's been fun for us to dig in and see some of this history. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through a timeline of our partnership and talk about each program as we added it, and sort of how it got started, and then what it's kind of evolved to become. I can say at the end of this timeline in 2020, what you have between our two organizations is basically a year's worth of programs every year. So we are, our staff from the farm are basically at the club almost weekly throughout the year, but we're doing different things in each season. So we're going to kind of lay out some of how that developed. So in 2012, we broke ground, and the club sent students to us for our very first summer field trip season. And these are some pictures that I dug out of the archives. Now our field trips have become a staple of our partnership with the club. Every summer, we take usually the first or second graders, sometimes third graders, out to the farm. The club provides transportation. They come out for the summer, you know, season of the club's operations. It's usually about 6 to 8 weeks. So it's kind of like camp. They're coming for about an hour every week, but when you put that all together, they've been at the farm for a good chunk of time. And one of the best things that we do with them, in my opinion, is we do square foot gardening. So you can see in this picture, we've got a raised bed that has, you know, string tied up with nails and tape. And every student gets 4 square feet, and they have to plan it out on the first day that they're there. They have to, you know, figure out how much space their vegetable needs. And then the second week they're there, they get to plant it out. We try to give them things that will grow pretty quickly so that they have something to harvest by the end, and they tend it all summer and they harvest it on the last day of camp. And then we've also grown our education space and sort of, I think, the quality of our field trips. And so we also now include, there's also a cooking station and the farm task. You know, we're not inventing, you know, tasks for kids to help us with. They're helping us with what we're doing that week. Yeah, that has evolved over time, but that was definitely one thing that we added as one of our first stages in our partnership. And I just want to tell a quick story. This student's name is Bryce. He was on our weekly field trips last year, and on their final week, they got to harvest their plots, and they took them home in these little baggies. And I remember he held up his bag of Swiss chard and peppers, and he kissed it before he got on the bus. And he passed it to the counselors and had us give his veggie bag a hug. And it just it was so sweet. And it really showed that he had taken ownership. I mean, he's only a second grader, but he had really taken ownership of his vegetables. And then he harvested them and he took them home. So, you know, to show his family and to cook with them at home. So we see these kinds of stories all the time, every year with students. So yeah, that was 2012 and that's continued. Then we did that for a couple of years, and then now we're at 2016. In 2016, we launched the Youth Run Farm Stand, which I believe in 2015 had just started as a table that was set up with vegetables. Kids were just handing out the vegetables from the farm. In 2016, we kind of formalized that into a pop-up farmers market. It happens for 1 hour every Wednesday throughout the summer. So about 6 to 8 weeks again. And then the teens at the club have the option to help us set it up, run it, and then tear it down. And they have a chance to explain all the produce to the customers. They have a chance to make sales. They handle the cash box, and they bag it for the customers. It's been a really fun opportunity for students to take ownership and responsibility along with us in this program. I should say that we don't really sell that much at this farmers market, but that's not the point. The kids are often making like $1 or $2 sales, but it's a great opportunity for them to be really closely connected to vegetables. And I'll just say quickly, over time, the Youth Run Farm Stand has grown to include a lot of sort of different aspects that are all happening in that tent at the same time. One of those is samples. So a SNAP Ed agent from Virginia Cooperative Extension often comes and preps samples of the vegetables. Then the teens actually pass those out to the little kids, and that sort of involves all of the students. At the end, the teens often shop for leftover produce at the end, so they end up taking home a whole full bag full of produce and recipes, which has been a really cool way for us to be able to give food to kids in a way that feels good, and you know, they're sort of is able to bypass some of the maybe feelings that come with like a handout or charity or a food line. So that's kind of been that wasn't our intention, but has been a cool way to send produce home with kids. And then last year, the students started holding up honk for veggies signs to try to boost our sales. And although that got a little bit dangerous with the kids getting close to the road, it was really fun. It just kind of became a spectacle of selling vegetables. So that is the Youth Run Farm Stand. And at the end, I can talk a little bit more about how we formalized this program to increase teen participation and to sort of incentivize their showing up and sticking around for the whole time. So let's go ahead and move on to the CSA pickup. Clara?
Yeah, hi. Okay, so CSA, for those of you who maybe don't know, stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and it's basically a veggie subscription program where folks pay for a share of what we produce on the farm during a 20-week period from the beginning of June to mid-October. And thanks to the club, their Waynesboro site is the pickup location for our members on that side of Augusta County. So because we harvest on the same day as our CSA pickups, we often know by the time we're packing up the truck what we have an abundance of, and we'll bring snackable veggies with us to hand out to the kids who you can see here, like, love the veggies, which is awesome. So to give you a picture of what pickup at the club looks like, it's basically I pull into the parking lot and the kids shout, "The veggie lady's here!" And they stumble over each other to get to the truck so they can help me unload the boxes and to get a peek at what I brought for them that week. We sit around the picnic table in between customers, and they tell me all about that time or the many times they've been to the farm and what they did there as they casually munch on whatever it is that I brought. Green beans, lunchbox peppers, cucamelons, cherry tomatoes, watermelon, lettuce mix straight out of the bag, all of this undressed, totally raw, and they do it without a moment's thought. And that has been so cool to watch. They help me greet the customers. They're asking to help me break down the boxes and to stack the clamshells. They want tasks, and they're like, you know, or they want my notebook so they can draw me pictures of their time at the farm or whatever. It's such a casual and great opportunity to engage with the kids in like a totally unstructured kind of way where I'm not, it's like it requires no work for me at all. We just hang out, you know, and normalize that process. There's definitely a lot of positive peer pressure happening among the kids. When I brought something like cucamelons for the first time, some of the kids had never tried them. I mean, most adults haven't tried cucamelons. I tried my first cucamelon at Project Grows. So, and I'm sure many people on our staff can say that. So, anyway, so, you know, one of them tries it, and then they, you know, are trying to get their buddies to try it too, or say like, just try this, you know, or come on, you can do it. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch them basically do that work for us. They're making veggies cool, and we love that. So I usually bring spare baggies. So if on the odd chance that we actually do have leftover produce at the end of the day, the kids stuff their bags and take them home. And some of the wonderful quotes we've heard over the years are like, "I got my dinner with me," you know, or "I'm going to take these Chinese yard-long beets home for my mom to cook for dinner." And there's so much ownership. I think if there's one central theme to all of this, it's that there's so much ownership in making decisions like that, and feeling like they have something to contribute to their home, to their families, and to their homes, which is a really beautiful thing. So
yeah, thanks, Clara. That's always a really fun sort of picture to paint for everyone, just because there's so much energy on CSA pickup days. And I should say that I don't know if other farms do this, but if anyone's on the call that is sort of thinking about possible, you know, farm to after school partnerships, this is a very easy first step. If an after school location is interested in making their parking lot available and is comfortable doing that, this is a pretty low bar way for us to interact with kids. You know, we're not planning, like Clara said, we're not planning programming. It's just, we're just hanging out with kids and offering them vegetables. So, okay, that brings us to 2018. One quick thing to add here is we began the club began sending teens from the Waynesboro location to our farm for our volunteer nights, which we call garden work parties. So this is a very typical garden work party scene with two of our staff prepping dinner and the rest of you know, the volunteers and the teenagers sort of participating in farm tasks on the farm with us. So that was not like a super formal program, but just another easy, you know, connection point where we already had people on the farm. And so it was easy to invite the youth to be with us. Okay, so 2019, last year we added a lot of things. So I'm going to turn it back to Clara to talk about Young Chefs. And Scott, feel free to jump in here too, because in our most recent iteration of Young Chefs, which just wrapped up this fall, Scott's been able to be at all of those classes and had a big hand in that. So yeah, take it away, Clara and Scott.
Cool. Well, as Nicole said, we launched the Young Chefs program in 2019. It's basically a 4-week long cooking series program that we work with the Boys and Girls Club to deliver both at their Waynesboro site and at the Staunton site. We use seasonal veggies from Project Grows to make dishes for the club dinner. And in that way, the kids are helping us, as you can see here, prepare a dish from a recipe that we bring with us. And in choosing recipes, Megan, our Director of Food Access, generally tries to focus on veggies that that have been featured in our Harvest of the Month in School tasting program, so that kids who've had an opportunity to taste cabbage, for instance, in their schools have another opportunity to taste veggies, probably prepared in a totally new way, at the club, and actually having a part in making the dish, which we don't do with the Harvest of the Month program. So Megan told me that some of the kid favorites for recipes were and honestly, like some staff favorites too. I make these all the time. Sweet potato, kale, and black bean quesadillas. The Hulk smoothie, which is like just pureed greens and fruit. Garden veggie marinara with pasta. And another favorite is homemade flatbread with beet hummus. And let's see here. So even for recipes, though, Megan said that that aren't so popular, like our turnip stir fry we tried, it wasn't as popular as others. That's okay, because the kids still tasted it. And if there's a common theme through our whole partnership with the club, it's that we've had success in increasing kids' willingness to try new foods, down to the fact that, we have so many touch points with them, and we've built up so much cred over time that, even if they don't like it, no problem, they still wanted to taste it because, they still know us, know our logo. I'm not wearing my logo right now, but like we just have recognition and cred over years of various touch points with the club and with the kids. Let's see here. Scott, do you have anything to add actually about this year? Because I haven't participated in this year's Young Chefs, so maybe you have something to share.
So over the time, so not even just this year, can y'all hear me? All right, perfect. All right, so not even like over this year or like last year, like the kids, you were going through like how they made it not liked it at the end when they were trying it, but they also love just making it, being hands-on, being able to do something that normally a regular day they just come into the cafeteria and their supper's made. So here they're able to actually get hands-on. They're able to make the food, know where it comes from the visits to the farm. So they get to see the whole process through, even if at the end they don't like it, or most of them, they said they wouldn't eat it again if it was like certain things, but then other times they're like, can we make this? Can we make that? So they started making their own little requests. And then like, if y'all would like some days, of course, y'all didn't come every single day, but sometimes they were like, when's Project Grows coming? When is this going to happen? When are we going to do this? Can we make this again? So it's like, it starts sinking into something that they're loving to do, excited to do. And it's just something to continue to try to get the kids outdoors also, because especially like now with COVID, it's hard for them to get out and get around. So just going off of the Young Chef stuff, like they loved it and they continue to ask about it. Even this year when we had to change it up a little bit, they're all like, can we just do this? Can we do that? And then some of the older kids who have been here for the past couple of years are like, can we try this again? Can we try this? So it's like it sinks in. It just doesn't sit there and like they do it and then they forget about it. Like we have requests all the time, even though y'all may not be coming that week. They're like, can Miss Annette make this for us? Or can we try to make this with Miss Annette? And so of course they're like, yeah, we'll try to do that. Like, of course we want to keep them going and keep them interested. So it just having the fact that they enjoy something and then they can benefit out of it, it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for adding that, Scott. And yeah, I think what you said is great about especially the kids who've been there for a few years. You know, I remember last year we were like, man, this student and I were talking like, well, you were here you took field trips when you were in the second grade. And then you know, you've been at the CSA pickups, and we've seen you, and you've participated in the Youth Run Farm Stand, and now you're doing Young Chefs. So it's like for one student, not that every student is at the club every year. That, you know, we're when we come in, we're never sure exactly who's going to be there. Obviously it's up to the club, but when we come, we often just see these same students year after year, a lot of the time. So, okay, let's move on to another thing we added in 2019. And Scott, I believe you were on this field trip, so Claire is going to talk about it, but feel free to jump in.
Yeah, so we launched this pilot program in 2019, and basic, you know, field trips to the farmers market. We didn't really talk about this too much, but we manage two farmers markets in the area: the North Augusta Farmers Market and the Waynesboro Farmers Market. And the North Augusta takes place on Wednesdays, so in the middle of the week, and then our Waynesboro market is on Saturdays. And as I mentioned before, we accept SNAP at those markets, and we double SNAP benefits there as well. So Megan, our Director of Food Access, manages these markets with the help of our food access team, Natalie Pax. So the idea for this pilot program about bringing kids to the farmers market came sort of as a natural extension of our on-farm field trips. The North Augusta market is like 3 minutes away from the farm, and Megan was thinking, you know, well, kids already come out to the farm for field trips. Why not bring them to the market? They get to see where food grows and how it grows. So let's now show them how farmers sell their goods at market, and let kids actually participate, even in a small way, in the local food economy, and showing them what that looks like. So before the actual field trip, our staff did a mini lesson at the club with the kids on one of our field trip lessons called The Economics of a Tomato, which explains sort of the value of, or takes kids through the process of learning, you know, what the value is of supporting local growers and keeping food dollars in our local economy, among like so many other objectives. It's a great way of sort of showing the value of supporting local ag. And so they did that at the club. And then when they came to the farmers market, the kids had the opportunity to do a self-guided activity. So to look for certain things in the market, is basically like a scavenger hunt to look for certain things, you know, certain types of produce or other goods. And then with ready questions to ask farmers so that they could spark conversation and engagement with producers there at the market. And we also partnered with Virginia Cooperative Extension to do a food demonstration and sampling, featuring produce that was purchased right there from the market, from the farmers. And then the kids had an opportunity to taste it. And the kicker too is that each kid was given $4 in veggie bucks to spend on fruits and veggies at the market. So one of the great stories that Megan told me about that was like a lot of the kids bought sugar snap peas and like gobbled them up right there at the market. They didn't even make them on the bus. You know, they finished their pint clamshells while they were right there at the market. And one of the things she really loved seeing was that some of the kids were like pooling their resources together, like putting their veggie bucks together so that they could like leverage their purchasing power and buy things that they wouldn't individually be able to do. So they worked together to buy things collectively that they could share and distribute. And she just thought that was so cool. Like all the strategizing and the working together and the camaraderie was really cool for her. And one of the things she said was that many of the kids said like that they were looking for produce that they thought their moms would like specifically because they wanted to take it home for dinner. They wanted to contribute to, you know, to their family. So even though our markets did continue throughout COVID this year, we had to put our field trip plans to the farmers markets on hold. We had big plans to expand that. Megan had big plans to expand that this year, but we had to put that on hold because of COVID. But we're really hoping to expand that in the future because it seems like a great success. But would love to hear your thoughts, Scott, because you were actually there.
Yeah, so the kids absolutely loved it. They were looking forward to doing it even more because they were asking like maybe next time can they bring their own money? So like allowance that they were making from mom and dad or anything like that, they were like, can we bring that so then we can add it to our veggie bucks so then we can get more? Or like if my mom wants something, if I tell her that's there and if I bring money, can I buy it for the family? So it wasn't just like introducing them to the farmers market, but it was incorporating the whole entire family without having the whole entire family there. And of course, they're running home. They're like, look what I bought. And of course, mom's probably like, how'd you buy that? Like, where'd the money come from? That type of stuff. And then they get to explain everything to the family. And then they're getting like their little siblings interested in the farmers market. So it wasn't just like incorporating the kids and into the farmers market and into like that kind of atmosphere, because most of the kids had never been there or even heard of it. They were like, where are we going? What is that? Like they were trying to like know where we were going before we even got there. So having them like be able to work together too, being able to, because when they were going around asking the questions and stuff, they had their groups that they were working together with. But as soon as we allowed them to go use their veggie bucks, those groups didn't matter anymore. They were going to different groups. They were mixing all together. So it's like, it wasn't just like group to group working together. It actually incorporated everybody as a whole. And they were able to get most of the things that they wanted. And then, of course, they were interested and excited to come back because we also let them know, like, it's not going to be the same thing every time you go there. So you might get to see something different. And, of course, they're always like, well, what's going to be there? What's going to be next? Like, can we go there this week? Can we go there next week? And it's like, we try to get there as much as possible. And, of course, like, just their interest and their excitement to go there was worth it even going there once. And then, of course, seeing how they reacted and seeing them work together was just like the cherry on top. So
yes, I have to say this photo is just killing me. Legend and Lenny there in the front, so triumphant and just blissed out eating what, blueberries or what
I think so.
yeah.
Those definitely didn't make it as far as the bus. That's clear.
So half the stuff they bought didn't make it to the van at all. So they were like, where's the trash can at? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like having a whole empty blueberry container. And I'm like,
great.
Where did that go? Did you drop it? Like, are we gonna have a mess to clean up? And of course, no. Like they ate every single thing basically before we even got to the club, because they were asking on the way back, can we eat in the van? Can we eat in the van? I was like, as long as you don't make a mess, like we can clean up. And like I'm pretty sure like 2 things made it back to the club, and it was just because they had gotten so much of it. They were like, I'm gonna save this for mom or save this for a sibling. So most of it didn't even make it back to the club, but
That's
just a
great.
little bit back to some of the family.
Awesome. Oh, well, thanks for those stories. Yeah, it's one thing just to highlight is like, you know, like Scott and Annie, we're not there obviously after, you know, the program is done and we leave. And so it's been really fun to be in close communication with your staff throughout the year to see, you know, how our programs are influencing kids when we're not there, you know, and the things that they're asking about and wanting to try. So that's really valuable. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes, so let's kind of go through some of these slides. kind of quickly. Annie, do you want to just quickly touch on Covenant Presbyterian and some of the ways that we've been able to plug in through that?
Yes, Covenant Presbyterian is a local church who has sort of adopted, they're based in Staunton, and they have just a wonderful, wonderful group of people who are, you know, share some similar missions and interests around, you know, making sure that children are having their needs met and being exposed to a wide range of things. But last year they started doing a program called First Fridays, and would come the first Friday of every month, literally an army of volunteers with just incredible learning goals and just, you know, setting up stations throughout the building and exposing kids to things that just are incredible. And one thing that they did was to work with Project Rose to also take part in the rotation of those programs that they were offering. So I think wonderful. I remember you, Nicole, holding a iPad showing kids compost, and they're like, ew, but still just enthralled. So just, you know, you guys are always finding interesting ways to align with what the club is doing and also enhance what other volunteers are bringing to the program. I just feel like it's been an incredible, it's incredible. And it's been so great to have you all participate in those First Fridays that Covenant has been doing. And probably through that, you've made outreach to other groups or gotten new ideas. It's endless.
Sure, yeah.
All of this, it's wonderful.
No, definitely, yeah. And just to piggyback on that, this is our former staff at Project Rose, John, doing a tasting at one of those First Friday events. And yeah, like Annie said, I went in and taught like a compost lesson. And so yeah, just lots of different ways to plug in. Okay, real quick, here's another thing we added last year. We put container gardens in at the Waynesboro location, and we had a huge pile of dirt, which quickly turned into mud, which we were using to shovel in those containers. So we had a lot of fun putting those in. And we were able to plant them out and with the kids, and the teens that were participating in the Youth Run Farm Stand would help us with the container garden. So it was kind of a way to have them take ownership of the club space even when we left, you know, because these containers would stay. And then Annie, do you want to talk about the tokens with the farm stand?
Sure. Yeah. The teens really, I mean, all ages of kids, it's so easy to get them enthusiastic about what you all are doing. But I think that, you know, the teens really enjoyed just, you know, being incentivized by, we weren't calling them veggie bucks, but we had these wooden tokens that you all supplied us with that I would just keep in a baggie on my desk. And so if I were to walk around the club and see a teenager doing something great or helpful or being polite or, you know, just that kind of kindness piece or something to reward, I would hand out these veggie tokens to them that they could then spend at the farmer's market or at the Youth Run Farm Stand that was brought to the club. And I would have them knocking on my door, you know, many afternoons a week saying, how do I get some of those veggie tokens? I want to spend them too. So it's just, there are so many levels in which, you know, the teens and the younger kids have just been engaged and really encouraged to be a part of what Project Rose has to offer. It's been incredible.
Yeah. And I just want to add one thing. Jay Holly, who was a staff member at the Boys and Girls Club for years, couldn't be a part of this presentation today, but he did send some thoughts. And one that I wanted to share that he said, kind of related to what you just said, Annie, is that he was kind of noting the different age groups that we work with the different programs. And I thought that was really, smart. So I'm gonna read this. He basically says, the first grade and kindergarten kids come to the farm for the field trips. And then we engage them with the cooking classes when they're like at the end of elementary school. And then they sort of have that knowledge base so that they can then participate in the Youth Run Farm Stand. So we did not, I don't think we ever really like anticipated that progression, but that's kind of what it's been. We've kind of like figured out different programs for the different ages, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so many different entry points.
And even like for a really young student, they can use tokens.
Yes, and to create an army of vegetable pushers.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, let's wrap this up real quick. So 2020, Clara, tell us about produce sales real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this year we started selling produce to the Boys and Girls Club, which was great during the summer. We were so grateful that that you guys reached out about starting to purchase veggies from us for the kids. So this year we sold ready to eat, like snackable produce items like cucumbers and carrots, sweet peppers, cherry tomatoes. I think that was mostly what we did, but maybe you have anything to add, Annie. But the produce sales to the club were new this year, and you know what's great about it is that we have the proof, like we have the evidence that they eat it. So it's not like it just goes. It's not like it just comes and goes, you know, into the trash can at all. We have proof that they like it and eat it. So it's been a great extension of our work with you guys. That you're now purchasing some from us as well. So eager to keep that going.
Oh yes, we look forward to it every week. Yeah.
That's great. Real quick, I just want to say during 2020, also, a lot of these programs weren't able to happen. We did some COVID adaptations for our cooking classes that Scott's been a part of. So every kid got their own table. We moved the classes to the gym. We decreased the number of students. I'm sure you've heard about lots of adaptations like this. But we're delighted that we were able to continue doing these classes at least. We also tried some take-home kits. I'm not sure if we'll do this one again, but we tried it. We sent home fresh produce and canned goods to make 2 recipes. Then Jay collaborated with us to make these little videos to share with kids about how they might want to try some of those vegetables that we were selling to the club in our produce sales. So if you want to check those out, those are on our blog and are really fun. Jay does a great job of telling everyone why they should eat the cucumber or the carrot.
I was totally convinced by him. I would eat anything that he, yeah.
Me too, yeah. And then, just 2 quotes real quick. This is Natalie, and we've had the opportunity to work with her this fall. And she said, I'm so good at this stuff. You know, I remember cutting the peppers last time. Just her confidence for, you know, she's been a part of some of these programs in the past. So we get to sort of see that confidence in each new class. And then this is Mayana, also this fall. This is her making a salad and then also a Hulk smoothie. And this is her referencing how many cups she had of the Hulk smoothie before the end of the day. We hear these all the time, so those are just 2 quotes to share. Okay, so let's pause here and take a look at our chat box. Clara, do you think that you could pull that up and read some of them? I'm not sure if I'm able to find that.
No questions as of yet,
Okay.
but there's an open invitation.
Open invitation.
Post your questions here.
Sounds good. Yeah, and while we're waiting for questions, anyone can Clara, Scott, or Annie can jump in to share any reflections about just sort of our partnership and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And then if we have questions, we can answer those.
I would just love to say, I think, you know, a lot of what the Boys and Girls Club does is the importance of the personalities and the strength of our staff members to get kids engaged. I see that as a part of what Project Grows brings to the table. It's not just the education, the lessons, and the access, but it's also the personalities. And I do want to just mention, I think that's really a foundation of all of this. So thank you. Looks like you have a question in your chat box.
Great. Clara, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, Ashley asked, I missed or was curious how our work was funded. So So writ large for our whole organization, we rely on, okay, yep, and then there's a follow-up question. We rely on grants, federal, state, and local grants and from various foundations. And sorry, I'm getting really distracted by the chat box here. I'm gonna put this down for just a second. Specifically for this program though, for our work with the Boys and Girls Club, some of our early work was funded through a USDA grant called the Community Food Projects Grant, which expired this year and now has been taken up. Our work is being funded by the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth. Let's see if I can pull up.
Yeah, we've got another question about maybe a question for Annie. Have you had to disclose upfront or reassure parents, teaching staff, or administrators about food safety this year? Have you had any questions about that from parents?
We have a general, safety policy surrounding, COVID operations at the club. So parents are pretty well oriented to how we're going to be processing and approaching food. It looks like in the Ashley's question, she's mentioned schools. Or do you all want to talk about your interaction with schools regarding that?
Yeah, I might pass that one to Clara. I mean, if you want to just quickly talk about our COVID food safety protocols that we've implemented during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you just muted.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize that I hadn't muted myself. I should say that some of these programs have, obviously changed with our COVID adaptation. So this year we've done our CSA pickups at the club, but the kids have not been present. But we're hoping to pick that up again next year. But as far as our COVID protocols and food safety are concerned, it's a farm, so we're in an outdoor setting. We maintain distance nonetheless from one another. We limit the number of people who are working in a space together, and in general, we haven't taken groups of volunteers this year just to help keep our staff and our community safe. And then, we also follow other CDC guidelines regarding washing our hands. When we're harvesting, we're wearing gloves. We have a pretty extensive cleaning and sanitizing process for all of our bins and materials. So, we maintain distance, we're washing our hands, we're sanitizing our things, and we're wearing gloves when we're harvesting and packaging food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great question. Thanks, Clara, for answering that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Ashley. Yeah, and Ashley, we'd be happy to connect with you later, either the Project Grow staff or the club staff to continue that conversation if you have more questions. Any other questions? One thing that I wanted to share, just in terms of how we plan these programs sort of logistically, it's been really helpful for us to come into the club to meet with, sometimes Annie and I will do a phone call and then we'll set up an in-person meeting with with the club staff that we'll be directly working with, such as Scott, to just go over the programs that we kind of have laid out for that upcoming season. We come in with an idea or like a past program that we've done, and we say like, okay, this is what we want to do. How does this sound to you? How might we need to adapt that based on, the number of students that you have, new constraints, food allergies that you may have. And then that also gives us a chance to sort of talk about like, how can we, as the outside organization, come in respectfully, like underneath whatever guidelines you have set up, what can we do to sort of like honor your rules so that it's easier for you to be an after school educator, and we're just like kind of supporting that. So I think that's been a really helpful posture, and I think that also helps us kind of both be open and like kind of take things more lightly when like things don't work, because like not every single program works, and sometimes like I brought mashed potatoes to the club yesterday for the kids to try, and they like hated it, you know. So like it's fine, you know, we don't take it personally. But you know, we're sort of talking like, okay, like this worked and this doesn't work, and just sort of having an open line of communication has helped a lot, and I think really helps to sort of strengthen yeah, the future of our partnership. Okay, maybe one more question. Let's see.
Yeah,
Oh,
Nicole.
this is a great question.
Yeah.
I can take this one. Yep. Okay, so Ashley says, I'd like to know what happened or didn't happen on your take-home kits for cooking kits. I'm working on with a group that just started this, and it feels successful, but it's too early to tell, and they have a calendar for monthly distribution of culinary kits to go to different schools on a rotation. Okay, so Ashley, that's a great question. Speaking of things that didn't work, or maybe things that worked in a way that we didn't expect. So we tried this summer, we were trying to think about ways that we could interact with the club without being there in person. So we tried these take-home kits, and I think we made a couple of errors or didn't quite think it through. But one thing is that we packaged them in Food Lion bags, which we had gotten for free from Food Lion. And you know, we kind of set them all up with all the produce and everything and the canned goods and the recipes. And then we like walked away, and the staff at the club handed them out to parents, or attempted to. And yeah, Scott and Annie, if you guys want to jump in and talk about how that went. My understanding is that parents did not really want to take them home. And so yeah, Annie, do you want to address that?
So one thing that I've seen over the years, that's really the first time Project Grows kind of, you know, did like a package with some canned items to help supplement the recipes, which you know, makes sense on the surface, of course, but you know, for the 85% of the kids we serve qualify for free or reduced lunch. So you know, one thing that we've noticed in trying to find ways to provide food access outside of the club, and this does not apply to fresh produce, but this idea of this take-home bag, parents tend to not receive that very well, and it's my impression that it's can sometimes be viewed as a, you know, a handout or something that you know, they may go to a food bank to access food, but I think they tend to want that to feel more private. So even though that wasn't the intention with these take-home kits, I think it may have been interpreted as such. And I think, you know, it was also a little beyond the fresh produce that they're used to seeing, because you wanted them to have everything they need
to make
do
the
the
meal.
thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was part of it. We're used to pushing the vegetables and the access through the children. And I think in this case, we were sort of trying to, you know, give responsibility to a family with, you know, with this. And I would say that would be the thing that I think didn't work as well. Mm-hmm. And you all weren't there, you know, with your smiling faces, right, being able to, you know, do what you do with the kids so well. I don't know, Scott, if you have any thoughts about that.
So yeah, I think one thing that might have been too was we tried it so early into one, the club trying to open up with COVID. Two, it was kind of all fresh. So like Annie said, a bunch of our kids are free reduced lunch already. So they were getting food from the schools also. So even though it wasn't fresh produce and stuff that they probably could use and the kids would have been excited to use about, because then they could relate it back to them when they were in the club. But I just feel like it was just so much going on at once with the families, with everything going on. Because when you all would bring any kind of extra produce y'all had in those big totes with individual baggies, those things would be gone within a week. Yeah. So like that stuff went quick. But then like when we try to give them a whole like kit for them to be able to use, it just kind of, I don't know if it's just kind of something like they were already getting like a bunch of food already to make food or make a dinner or make a breakfast or something like that. So I don't know if it was just kind of that ordeal, because when we did individual little baggies of like their peppers or tomatoes or something like that, that stuff would go so quick. Like their parents would be like, I have like 3 more kids at home. Can I take extra bags? And of course we're like, yeah, go ahead, take them. But it's like that stuff went quick, but then when we try to do a whole kit, it just kind of seemed like, for some reason they wouldn't take the whole kit, but they'll take individual baggies.
Yeah. And I can also jump in and just say that Annie suggested for next time that if we're wanting to send home kits for kids, that we decorate the bags in such a way that it's obvious that they're for children. So that I thought was a great suggestion. Okay, so we're at the end of our time here. I just want to thank everyone for joining us to hear these stories and to share in some of the impacts of our programming with the Boys and Girls Club. I'm going to be sending out the slides and the recording. So if you would like to connect with us, and Ashley, I'm seeing your note in the chat box. We'd love to connect with you and share more specifics about how this has worked. So thanks everyone for joining us, and special thanks to Scott and Annie for being on the call today.
Thank you, Project Grows. I'm celebrating you guys this week. 10 years.
Awesome.
I've got my greenery. I love you guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you for having us today.
Awesome. Great. Happy 10 years.
Woohoo!
Talk to you guys later.
10 more.
10 more. All right. See you guys later.
Thanks.